Well, welcome to the August 16th, 2023 Berlin Conservation Commission meeting. This is an open session, open public meeting, and your voice and image will be recorded should you choose to stand up and say something. And it looks like everyone's here. Everyone's here.
Oh boy.
Right, so we have 7 minutes. Let's do the minutes. Everybody read minutes? Anybody have any comments?
I did. I couldn't see anything wrong with them.
Okay. Motion to accept the minutes of the last meeting?
So moved. Beach it.
Okay. You can second.
Second. I can do that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. We don't have a treasurer's report. And so we have a bill that we need to vote to pay. It's for legal expenses for 72 Carter Street. I have been told that if we vote on it tonight, we can get it in under, most of it in under last fiscal year's budget. So 500 would need to, so this is a different number.
It is. I had 525.
That's what we're gonna vote on the 567 and
That
then
would
if
be
it's
better to
less,
be
yeah.
safe. Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
So I would like a motion to spend $500 from the annual budget from FY '23 and $67 to spend from the annual budget from FY '24.
So moved.
Make the motion.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, good. That was like.
And if it is just 25, we won't keep the extra, just so you know.
Yeah. You're gonna go out and get dinner. Or coffee or something.
No, never.
What, do we have?
Do we want to do the acceptance of deed
Sure.
and bring Eloise?
Yep, might
in?
as well. Oh,
Do we-
yes. Let's vote on this now and then have Eloise come in after
Okay.
this, yeah. After we vote on it, just let her know that we're ready, but that we've got a hearing.
Okay,
So, then she can come down before she leaves.
okay.
Okay. All right, so we have to vote to accept the deed for 72 Carter Street.
So moved.
Somebody second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
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 And the select board did vote to sign it Monday night, just so you know, so they've signed their page. If you can sign your page, that would be.
Right, so that's just, yes. Yes, Walter.
sign?
Yep.
And I feel like she have our signatures on record.
I'm just along for the ride.
She able to
You should give me a
notarize it?
tour up there.
She'll come in and notarize it, yeah. Well, nope, other way.
Yep.
I know, the sitting in a straight line is weird.
I like it.
Usually we sit in a U. Are there any other, is there any other mail or anything that we should, we have 3 minutes.
Yeah, not really. So, Ager Woods, me and Walter are walking with the forester to come out and develop a forestry plan next week, next Thursday.
Excellent.
They sent over just some paperwork for us to review.
Just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. I'm gonna leave that up to your capable hands.
All right.
Excellent, that's great though.
Yeah.
And did he give any indication as to when the plan, when we should see a completed plan?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe after Thursday he will.
Yep.
All right, awesome. Yeah,
You lost
yeah.
a seat. Or was there one down there?
We can, actually, we can
Stop.
swing you around.
Yep.
I happened to notice you out of the corner of my eye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Someone told me 7:30.
Oh. Ah, that was my fault.
It was your fault. Yeah.
All my other meetings are
Sorry, my boss
7:30.
told me 7:30.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Oh, good.
All right, is that
Yeah,
all?
it's done.
Excellent. Thank you.
Carolyn, you don't by chance have a second copy of that, do you, to sign? I can make a copy if not.
We
I was
don't,
gonna say, I have all the other documents, if you'd like me to take that and put it together with the ones that
And
the
then
select
make a
board
cop-
signed,
a
and
whole-
I can get that to KP, and make a
That-
copy of the whole thing for you.
yeah, that'd be awesome.
Sure.
Oh, who's that?
This for Kai.
It ended up in Maddie's, I think.
Okay. All right, so you'll let Eloise know.
Yep.
All right. Awesome.
And then I'll take it back at the end, Maddie. I'll take it at the end, Maddie, and put it with the rest of the
Okay.
docs that the select board signed.
Right, and then you'll get us a copy
I'll
of
get
the
you
whole
a copy
packet.
of the whole thing, and we'll get the copy over to KP.
Excellent.
The original, rather, over to KP.
Yes.
Lawyers like originals.
Yeah.
So I think I got everybody as they came in, but I don't know if it's
Okay.
worth asking.
Did everybody sign the sign-in sheet? All right. Yeah.
Crystal has it for you to sign. Alex and
We'll get them when they come in. We don't have, Roger, we're gonna need 3 chairs for our guests. Hmm? Oh, because the other one is being outfitted for, hybrid meetings.
Here we go, I'm gonna get.
So it's under construction. I don't know.
Carolyn, I'm gonna be over here.
Okay.
It's got 3 chairs.
All right. And Brian, it's 7:15 if you want to grab your friends. Oh, there they are. Sorry, I thought you guys were still out in the hall. Come on in. Yep. We're very close. We can't get mad at each other tonight.
We can get mad, we'll just keep it quiet.
Slam the table, right?
Patrick, Matt, you sign in?
Kind of like that.
Yes.
It's the only one we have to.
I already did. Okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
There you go. All right.
So for the record, Alex Parr for Homes at Highland Ridge with Matt Marone, Brian Clark. I think tonight you probably primarily want to hear from Matt.
Our people can't hear.
I know.
So with that, Matt, if you want to summarize what's transpired.
Okay, well, if anyone can hear me, just let me know. I'm being an old Italian, I have a big mouth anyway, so I should carry. All right, so my name is Matt Morrow. I am basically the principal and sole operator of a small consulting firm called Morrow Environmental Consulting. I'll give you guys a little background on me because I haven't been in Berlin for a long, long time. I started my consulting business back in 1999. I was also a conservation agent for 35 years, retiring in May of 2022. My last full-time gig was in Lunenburg. I'm currently consulting now full-time, and I actually still have an agent's gig, actually in Westminster part-time. So I see both sides of the table. I do a lot of erosion control inspections, as I am a certified stormwater inspector, EPA certified. So I often will write up SWIP plans with engineers and do stormwater controls. So what wound up happening, and I'll try to make this as brief as possible, essentially right around the 4th of July, I received an email with a report from Patrick Gardner, who was also present here. This would be his report number 112. It was an inspection report basically outlining that there were a lot of problems on this site with gullying, erosion, siltation heading out, items that were severely eroded and needed repair. So I basically communicated with Patrick. I think Patrick was not on site once or twice. I know we've met at least once on site.
We met at least once on site.
And we've also communicated by phone and email quite extensively. I've worked with Patrick in other venues before. So what happened was, in response to the inspection report, and I apologize I wasn't able to be at that meeting where the report was presented, but I had family issues that prevented me from being here. I prepared basically an erosion and mitigation response to Patrick's report. And the way I approached it was I basically addressed Patrick's report point by point. And what I found was Patrick had a lot of points, and a lot of very valid points. And we had no issue, agreeing to that, we had some work that obviously needed to be done on the site. And it was just a shame that we've had a July that's featured, like, in some spots up to like 15 inches of rain.
Yeah.
In this area right around Shrewsbury, I actually have another site where I gauged like 17.
Wow.
July normally gets 2.
Yeah.
So we basically had almost a half a year's worth of rain, if you base it on Massachusetts rainfall, in basically 3.5 weeks.
Yes.
We still continue to have some problems with erosion on the site. I know I ran into a couple of residents that pointed a few things out to me, which is always great to have input of people that are actually there. And what I saw on site was essentially you had the front yards were eroding away. You had an area on the low spot on the street where you have the silt sacks that were in there that were plugging up, flooding, overtopping, adding even more to the fun. So in that time, we've been working to try to address the silt sack flooding issue. And the last solution we came up with Patrick, which seems to be working quite well, is that we went to S&M Farms and grabbed silt sacks that would achieve both the filtration going into the basin, but if it started to get above hydraulic capacity because of a 2.5-inch rainstorm in like a half an hour, we had some overflow channels. And the last storm, it seemed to work quite well.
Yeah.
So I've been, working with Patrick, Mr. Clark, and all of the people working for the developer on site. And I'm just going to pass around some photos. This is essentially what the site looks like as of this morning at 10 o'clock. So we have a lot of germination now happening in areas that we're now gullying away. The detention basin is holding its own. It was clear today. There was no silt entering. You can see due to the heavy rain, I'm sure these are going to be passed around to everybody, so I apologize. I have a lot of them too. The grass is, of course, with all the healthy
Patchy.
rain we've had,
Yeah.
it's actually germinating in quite well. We have
For
a couple,
July, it's germinating in very well. July
we have-
and August.
Yeah, we have a couple of areas that are going to need touch up, but we're waiting for the wet weather to pass. The landscaper was out there today. I spoke to the landscaper along with Mr. Clark, and he's going to go in and just keep hand tamping down any areas that need to be touched up, and we'll continue to reseed it. We've added areas. Both Patrick and I were in agreement for areas that needed to be jute matted, or hopefully I'm not putting words in your mouth, Patrick. Areas that needed to be jute matted, adding extra wattles at the top of the slope, the bottom of the slope. You can see that the germination here has been dramatic. We also walked into the wetland system, which we originally thought it might have had some silt in it. And apparently, when we walked it, there wasn't any silt per se. There were areas that the vegetation kind of scoured over from heavy flow. I guess you could call it dust, if I had to put it in a layman's term. There wasn't really any substantial fill present. You could basically rake and it would go away, and the herbaceous layers were already reestablished. So
So are you talking above or below the silt fence?
I'm
When you
talking
talk about
below the
west
silt
end.
fence. There was a 920 square foot area below the silt fence, right near the outfall of the detention basin, that Patrick had cited in his report. And when we went and re-examined it, that was actually the walk we did together. We both determined that it wasn't as impactful as it first would seem. Things tend to look a little bit more dramatic after a heavy rain. And it was actually already reestablished on its own. It doesn't need to be touched. It's not going to accomplish anything. It's already grown. It's already in.
Right.
So the big key in this particular area, right across from the silt sacks, that was really helpful. You can see some of the front yards are starting to establish very nice. And that was a big key, because you can see the wattles around the front yards.
Yep.
So what was happening was the water was coming down at such a good clip that it actually jumped the berm.
Yes.
And when it jumped the berm, it eroded the front yard, went right into the backyard, then went right down. We also had a lot of downspouts from roof gutters
Yep.
that made nice little point source discharge that acted like high pressure water hoses.
Yep.
So Mr. Clark had his crew go around and add rock and riprap splash pads to everything, and it dissipated the energy. And for the most part, it seems to be being very effective. You have a couple of them where you can see a little strip of seed that washed away, but it's not like gullying the area down like 6 inches like it was.
Yeah.
So we've made a lot of progress. It's basically going to be an effort of continued elbow grease and monitoring at this point. That's basically it. What I am going to present the commission with is 3 copies of the erosion as-built that was recently presented to me by, this is Cornerstone, correct?
Yes.
By Cornerstone, for your files. 3 hard copies, you may have that. If you want a PDF copy, Maddie, just send me an email and I'll send you a PDF
I
copy of it.
think
Brian
Brian
sent
sent
it.
the
Did you?
PDF,
Okay.
yeah.
So here's the hard copies for your files.
Great.
And
And they're dated, yep.
I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys may have.
Just curious, is that as-built available to folks in the neighborhood that might want to take a look at that?
We can send it, yep.
That would be great.
Yeah, we do have the PDF, so if you could
Yeah,
do that.
Carolyn, for clarification, let me know that the plan, the as-built simply shows the location of the wattles.
That's correct.
Okay?
Yeah.
That's all it's showing. It's not
Okay.
showing elevations or anything.
Understood. I
Yep.
think that's
It's
Yeah.
also, it's also showing where the erosion controls are put at the base of
At the,
downspouts.
So
Black
just,
dots.
yep,
just to clarify for the person that asked that question, any information I'm presenting tonight that they already have in their files is a public record. So if you want copies, just ask, because I'm going to provide anything they also need as a PDF. I'm sure that they'll email you too. So just anything that I'm giving them is a public record, so you're entitled to it. Okay? You're welcome.
I'll send one copy that way. This way. I know. Yep, Matt.
My name is Matt.
Are you also working on, or is there a drainage plan for the entire site that you've had any input on?
You're jumping ahead.
Okay. Table my question.
Just, Maddie, if you can take those. Right, so that really is my biggest question, I think. First of all, I want to say good job so far.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it looks great. It's a shame that we got to this point, but they're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Fixing the things that needed to be fixed. We did request a plan at the last meeting. Patrick, help me remember exactly.
Yeah, well, between the units on Campbell and Wheeler Hill, there's a swale that runs back in the back end. And at the last meeting, we had asked have someone like Cornerstone come in, do an as-built back there, and then propose a redesign so that the swale actually functions. And I think that was to my knowledge, that's the biggest remaining issue.
Okay, so to answer that question,
Yes.
I was actually on site with Brian and John Grenier, who is a registered professional engineer. He's going to be working on that phase of the project, as Cornerstone currently isn't available.
Okay.
So we are looking at that, Patrick. So Mr. Grenier actually is working on doing some revised gradings and looking at that swell.
Good.
So that will be forthcoming.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think it's a fairly minor but important detail.
Yeah, and I know that Mr. Clark has talked to residents that, live basically behind, in front of the swale in
Yeah.
between, and has received input from them on what's happening in their yards too.
Okay.
So it's not like just the swale, it's like the whole area has been examined, and
Great.
we're going to continue to work on that.
Good.
And the soil will be vegetated, not riprap?
I'm not the engineer designing
should
it,
be
so,
vegetated.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
but I will, you want it vegetated, not riprap.
Well, that's the one thing that makes the most sense to me, but I was asking, is it gonna be
Yeah.
vegetated?
Matt-
He's just starting to work on this,
Okay.
as far as I know, because I haven't really talked to him too much, but I do work with John a lot in different venues. So I will email him that question this evening, or what your desire is, to see what
Yeah.
we can
And-
Yeah,
make
I was
happen.
gonna say, Matt, that the rule of thumb typically is if it's got greater than 5% slope, it's riprapped to prevent further erosion. But
Right.
if it's under 5%, then it's grassed, and the grass has far more environmental, positives than riprap. So we'd
Well,
like to avoid riprap if possible.
We'll ask Mr. Grenier to work directly with you on this topic. And we did ask Cornerstone, but Cornerstone has done primarily survey work out there as opposed to engineering work, so they were uncomfortable stepping into it.
Okay.
So that's why we have Mr. Grenier now.
Yep, we've worked with John before, also.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
Oh, he was just explaining why a different person other than Cornerstone is doing the engineering for the swale. Because they've just primarily been doing surveying work on the property, they didn't feel comfortable stepping in to someone else's engineering. So they've hired John Grenier to do that portion, and he is willing to do that.
And when will that be ready for review?
We're going to give them a date. So, is there any other input from the residents up to this point? John?
Yeah, I agree that the grass is coming in very well, and there's still a lot of erosion that washed seed away. I'd encourage Brian to come speak to me about what's going on behind our house. We had a jute mat put down, I think Friday, down in the back.
Yes, I saw that yesterday.
But nothing was put under, it's just put
Right.
on the dirt. I don't know what
Yeah.
point that's serving. And the grass that is coming in that little swale, I mean, after a little bit of rain, it feels like you're walking on a waterbed. So I don't know how sound that ground is or why it's doing that. It's more of a question, is why is that dirt feel so soft? It doesn't feel solid like it can hold anything.
Matt?
Could you tell us what your unit number is, please?
39 Wheeler Hill.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know the area he's talked about, because I walked by it today. So what's happening here is that you, like I alluded to earlier, you've had a ton of rain, and we've been laying and relaying and laying loam down again, hitting it with jute mat. So yeah, for a while the ground is going to feel soft under your feet, while everything basically settles, hydraulically compresses. The gentleman here has expressed a concern, so we will go specifically look at the areas that he's talking about. I've had other residences while I was walking around that's actually come up to me and said, hey, check this out. I brought Brian back and said, yeah, this is what was pointed out to me. Honestly, you guys have been real good to me, especially when I've been out there, and I really appreciate it. Input's always welcome. Sometimes the best time for me to learn something is from the people that live there. You know what I mean? So we're working very diligently on this. I think the proof is in the pudding in the photographs. especially when you guys have copies of Mr. Garner's reports.
Yep.
And you've seen what it looked like before. So, I mean, we're putting the sincere effort into it, and we do plan to continue.
Yep,
So,
that shows.
thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Yeah, I appreciate the effort.
One last question, if I may. And these are all perennial grasses that are going down?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
And one thing about perennial grasses is over time they develop pretty robust root structures. As a root dies, it becomes a straw to help percolate water away too. It's not the main force for percolation, but it certainly contributes.
No, very well,
Yeah,
very well
just-
put.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One last thing I wanted to ask.
Yep.
At the last meeting, we did hear that swales are supposed to be added between all the buildings. I don't believe that's been done to all the buildings.
Again, we're looking into that engineering wise.
Yeah.
That was when Patrick brought that to my attention, I said, I'm going to have to refer that to engineering because I'm a wetland scientist, I'm an erosion control specialist. The last thing I ever want to pretend to be is an engineer.
Good for you.
Try to, you know, I
Yep.
mean, I have
So
a hard time putting a box on
John is going to
paint.
look at that?
That's correct.
All right.
I have a question
Yep.
for Brian. Brian, when do you think you'll be paving? 'Cause
Well-
I think some of the water can be diverted out into the streets when you do the garage, driveways.
We want to pave this year. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So,
I just say it might help.
no, yeah,
Water.
no, we definitely want to pave this year. That was the plan. I mean, we had them scheduled already, but obviously we had to postpone everything.
Right.
So, I mean, as soon as we get all the big heavy equipment out of there, you know, we don't want to be driving that over the roads after we, you know, fresh pavement. So
Right.
All right,
this year, I don't have a date yet, but just seeing how things go.
But paving can happen well into the fall.
Oh, yeah, right up to Thanksgiving, and then
Yeah.
if the weather's good, sometimes it's even longer. So.
Yep.
Depends on how the
Yeah.
paving plants decide to stay open or not.
Right.
Just to add on to John's comment about swales between each unit, I live in 21 Campbell, so I'm on the east side of that swale. East side of the swale that runs down from up above, down behind Campbell. The person or company that would be doing a study of that swale and the engineering of it, is there any way that an individual homeowner would have some input to that person as to what happens during a heavy rainstorm, as opposed to someone looking at an area when it's not raining and it's dry, in terms of where the water runs and how the water runs, and that might add to their ability to engineer a solution?
Well, my recommendation would be to continue to bring the concerns to Mr. Clark, who's on site. He can then relay them to myself and to Mr. Grenier, so we can work to address them.
Could you hear that?
Couldn't quite hear that.
Sorry, I'll turn the loudmouth Italian part back on. So essentially, just continue to relay your concerns either to myself if you see me on site, or Mr. Clark, who's always on site, and we will both make it a point to relay the concerns to the engineer. There are times when the engineer will tell him something, and it will pique his curiosity, and he may even want to seek you out himself just to see more of what you're talking about. I could tell you, I've worked with John Grenier for like 15 years now, and Mr. Grenier is actually very well versed in doing drainage remediation, stormwater remediation in large developments. He's engineered a lot of them. So he's very good. He's a very good engineer to have on this job.
Yep.
So.
Agreed.
Linda White, 16 Spofford. I'm hearing a lot of the conversations now reverting a lot of responsibilities to Mr. Grenier, and he's not here to help answer some of the questions that a lot of us have in regards to the fact that he's now going to look at the, swells between buildings, and now he's going to be managing between Wheeler Hill and Campbell. Ultimately, I have a bird's eye view of that entire situation, and I know that they're just like putting it together so that at the end of Spofford, where the water is now running into the buildings down at the end, is only a temporary fix. They were out there all day, the guys from Paradigm, being able to manage, but the true question is, what's the review date that Mr. Grainer is going to have to get back to us? Because we're just diverting one problem to somebody else now. And it hasn't, and what happens at the very next rainstorm, what's the recourse for the Conservation Committee?
Okay, so, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of issues here, judging. I'm sure the crowd's not here to see me. I'm not that popular a guy. But,
Plus, they just see the back of your head.
right, well, I mean, it's a shiny spot, so. It's, with all due respect, I can totally understand your frustration, but Mr. Grenier actually has just been retained, and he is currently working on other projects. He has other meeting commitments, which is probably why he couldn't be here tonight. We tried to have Cornerstone, who was part of the original team, come in, but they're not comfortable doing this type of remedial work. John specializes in this, so he will work diligently to get this done quickly and to address your concerns. It's not like we're trying to kick the can down the road. I'm just not an engineer. I'm a wetland scientist and an erosion specialist.
Right, understood.
I-
And I saw you there today with Brian and I'm sure the other gentleman.
The other
John,
gentleman was Mr.
there.
Grenier.
Okay, so now I know who it was. I was trying to open the window to listen to what you were saying. But
down there listening.
so, I saw you looking from the side of our home, which is at the end of Spofford, as you were walking on that side yard and looking at the slope that goes down to Wheeler, to 30 Wheeler, and then all the erosion that's happening straight behind those other buildings. So the question becomes is, okay, it's a temporary fix, what Paradigm did today, but one good rainstorm and the little bit of dirt that they put there is gonna wash right under that swale that's at the top of that hill again.
Okay, duly noted, and I'll bring it to your concern to John's attention.
I mean, it's, thankfully, I'm not getting any water, but for the people that are gonna live below that, that has to be addressed for sure.
Yeah, and we intend to make sure that it does get addressed.
And
Hold
what
on one
time
second.
frame?
Hold on. Judy, you had.
I just have a question. So the reason the grass is coming in a lot of places is because we're watering it. The homeowners are watering the yards. So when is the irrigation going to be finished?
It's on.
Just came on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, they've been working on the irrigation system for like the last 3 weeks.
That's what I had heard, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of the tougher
So it's
ones.
running at night, so I got this information. The gentlemen that are doing irrigation, I talked to him the other day, and it starts at 10 o'clock at night down at the clubhouse, comes down Campbell, comes back around, and then, so it's probably not on and you're not hearing or seeing it because it's the middle of the night. Probably not the appropriate time to be watering grass, but ultimately it's usually 4 o'clock in the morning, and then is when you should be watering grass and on.
And it waters for 15 minutes and turns off. Brian, is there some way we could have Jennifer send something out to the community on this?
Sorry, what was that?
Could Jennifer send something out to the community on this?
About the whole irrigation?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this on even at the bottom of Wheeler? Like in the 30s, 20s? Is it working?
Yes, yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's all working right now.
Okay.
It was going this morning.
I live at 45 Wheeler. Behind my unit is a rock wall that's supposed to be a retaining wall. And irrespective of how much dirt, how much grass we grow back there, there's really going to be no way to keep that wall in place because of all the erosion that's going to happen through that wall. And I'm wondering what the plan is for that, because our units are like 15 feet away from this retaining wall. And when the water runs off it, you're gonna, because it's, haphazard rocks here and there, any water that goes in between the rocks, and irrespective of how much grass is on it, it's just gonna erode those things out. Rocks are gonna fall out, and effectively the whole area is just gonna collapse.
What unit is this?
What unit?
45?
45. So we'll have them look at it.
Yes, we live at 9 Campbell, so kind of ground zero for all the water to come from the swale that doesn't work anymore. And I saw you guys out there. I'm really glad you didn't fall in the mud, as I have and couldn't get out one time. So they're working really hard and I appreciate that. But this Mr. Grenier, who is the engineer behind the new plan, I wonder if people who are kind of directly impacted by that might have an opportunity to meet with him, even if it's like a small group. I mean, I've got oodles of video, pictures, whatever. Like, when you see a torrential rainstorm coming down there, it looks much different than today. But even yesterday, dry as a bone, everything surrounding in the neighborhood, our backyard and the corner of our house was puddled.
That's because there's a leaking control panel box in the ground that's leaking continuously from the sprinkler system.
It could be.
Excellent.
And the one behind our unit is leaking, and the one behind my brother's unit is leaking continuously. You pull the cover of the panel box off, and it's just
soaking wet all the time.
soaking wet.
Right.
We pointed that out to the landscaper today.
Right, so
But
those
that's
are,
what
right, and those are more things for Brian directly.
So if we could just kind of maybe meet or understand, because it's so wet, and we've been there a year and a half or more, I don't know. As long as the longest person's been there, we've been there, and last year I was in it knee deep, and.
Right, well, hopefully with the vegetation, that will certainly help. Matt?
Well, again, as I stated previously, we probably should have one central point of contact, which would be myself and Brian, and we can relay this information to Mr. Grenier. He will eventually be on site himself again to take another look at what's going on out there. So I'm sure there's items he's going to want to see and perhaps people he'll want to talk to, but I can't commit that for John.
Sure, yep, right, so, you know, I don't know if there's any formal communication method that you guys have.
We just go through a punch list, and I don't know how often that gets relayed to Brian, so.
I just chase Brian around the neighborhood.
Not the only one.
It seems to be working.
That often is the best method. Yep.
All right, you okay with that, Brian?
All right.
Nothing I can do
I
about
think
it.
last one.
Just a quick question, and just to be sure, the consultant here and Mr. Grenier that's gonna be working, they're retained by the builder, the developer?
Correct.
So the funds come out of the builder, not the HOA funds or anything like that?
Well, that part, I don't know who's paying the bill.
No, we're paying the bill.
Brian just said the developer is paying the bill.
I do have one more comment.
That's
as
good,
well,
'cause I have to
that
sing it
when you
anyways.
consider the decision that you're gonna have
Oh,
to
we're not
make
paying you.
on whether or not to lift the builder's ban, I propose that it be only for homes under agreement, and until we have a plan from John Grenier, that we wait until any other construction is done on any other home.
You guys are all good. You're jumping right ahead. Just come on up. You can do this for me. Yeah. Patrick, do you have anything else to add?
Thank you for asking. Basically, I concur with what Matt has said, and I have worked somewhat extensively with John Grenier, and he is very good.
Yeah.
He's very skilled at this particular sort of thing. But I would note too that he's not going to just create a plan and Brian's going to build it. It's going to have to be given to the commission for review. The commission will review it. I'll probably look at it and vet it before and give it a green light before any work takes place. So it's not going to happen in the background in the shadows. It's going to be something that everybody can look at, and so you'll have your bite of the apple again.
We'd all want to be in agreement. and
Of course.
Everybody,
Yeah.
know
On the
what's
same
going on.
page. Yep.
That's a given.
Yep.
So, yeah, I agree with Patrick wholeheartedly. So,
Yep. Anybody else on the commission have anything to say?
Of course.
Okay.
So I went out and walked the silt fence all the way from end to end today. And I observed all this stuff and looked pretty good. I'd say 90% of the ground is somewhat vegetated now. There are some runnels that have developed with some heavy rain. They have to be reseeded.
that's stuff we're working on.
Yep.
Yeah, like Matt was saying, One thing I noted was downhill from the silt fence, and in a lot of places it's a double row. The water that had passed through was clear. It's working, but there's still an awful lot of mud, and I don't know how. A lot of mud showing with not any vegetation in it yet, and I don't know.
Do you believe that was runoff that came down that hasn't been, like, is it real fine sediment or?
It's silt and sand, no rock or anything, just
Right.
very fine stuff. But it's between the silt fence and the stream, in the forest. And I wonder if anybody, if one of you or both of you would like to go down there and talk about what, if it requires some remediation, because I'm uncertain.
I'm happy to.
Yeah, okay.
It's fine by
I think
me.
we should take a look at it.
Let me comment as well.
Okay.
I did the same thing yesterday. I walked the whole line, and I saw maybe 4 what I was calling breaches. It came, obviously, silt and sand had run through or under the old silt fence and had sort of intruded into the woods. I'm not exactly sure how to deal with it. I don't mean physically. I mean, I know that Brian can go in there with a landscaper and they can break out some stuff. And on the other hand, my reaction was, by the time we go through fall, we're going to leaf cover. It's going to be gone. It's going to disappear. A lot of it is outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. It's upgrading of that area as well. So I'm not sure whether you really have jurisdiction.
Yeah.
I would hit the 90% as well. Your percentage, that was exactly mine. It's about 90% sort of stabilized. But it needs to be watched. It needs to be monitored. They've come a long way, but my conclusion was, in terms of those little breaches, it probably looked okay. But you can certainly differ.
No, and my concern, I know where the creek is because I walked back there.
Yes.
It's will that continue to migrate, or you think it'll?
I don't think it will.
And I think digging it out would be a real mistake because there are a lot of oaks.
Yeah.
Their roots are very, very sensitive.
Yep.
And I'll make one last comment because I brought this up before. The new trees throughout the development are volcanoed with mulch. That kills the tree. Plain and simple. We need to get the landscaper, whoever, to pull that mulch back so that it's below the root flare where the root, there's always that little.
Landscapers love to do that.
Well, he actually relayed that to me. We met out on site once, quite by chance.
Yep.
And I actually spoke about that to Brian today, just to take a look through it.
Yeah,
So-
it's
We
not
hate to
unique
lose
to
those
this
trees,
property.
my goodness.
Landscapers love to do it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I don't think it even looks all that good, but it does kill the tree.
Cherry trees make good artificial lava, I guess.
They make really nice bowls.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I noticed
they all have it.
One more comment.
Okay.
I went to do
Sorry.
that right away after it was notified, and my tree's not planted deep enough. Part of the problem was I started to get to the root of the tree when I did that.
Right. Well,
So be careful.
yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, yeah. We're so close.
At the clubhouse, there's a road that goes down to the wells.
Correct.
There was, about a week and a half ago, there were very, very deep ruts going down that. It looks
We
like
mentioned that actually at the
Right.
last meeting,
It
yeah.
looks like they've been partially filled, but I noticed when I just got back from vacation this week, they're starting again. So just wanted to make a note. I'm not sure if there's a way to dry something heavy down there and just flatten it out. Or add more
I think it's
rock.
fairly compacted at this point,
Oh,
but yeah, so if you could have John look at that,
Yeah,
or
that'd be good.
Matt, or whoever should
We'll
look at
one of
that,
us will
yeah.
cover it.
Okay, excellent.
Where was this again?
So it's the road past the clubhouse, heading
Down to the
south,
wellhead.
down
It
to the
starts
wellheads.
Just in front of the clubhouse, and then it goes all the way down to
Okay.
the wellheads.
Yep.
And especially at the top of it, I noticed where the.
Yeah,
most
where
deepest-
it's steeper.
And it seemed like it did get better, but then it started getting worse again, so.
Okay. Anybody else on the commission? So what I would like to recommend is that we lift the stop work order conditionally on getting
John.
John's report prior to our next meeting, so we can have time to send it to Pat to look at it, so we can review it at our next meeting.
When is your next meeting?
Well, that actually needs to be determined.
It's coming up.
Only because I'm going to be out of town the first week of September, so we need to vote whether to have it on September 13th. But there's a fair chance that it will be September 13th.
Good to know. I'm just about to submit an NOI for a septic system
Oh.
with you guys, so good to know that.
Yes. So John's report, at least a week prior to our next meeting. It would be great if John could be at our next meeting to discuss the report and the plan. And that the other condition would be that you continue to make progress with the erosion, hammering down that last 10% or.
Yep, understood.
Is that everybody okay with that?
Who monitors that? If the progress.
Matt does. Well, Matt and Pat. Pat will continue to be out there monitoring as well.
So you're saying the stop work order is lifted immediately as long as they continue, or it's pending
Correct.
and- okay.
Well, we haven't voted on
Sure,
that
but
yet,
that-
but
I'm
yes.
understanding that
But
proposal.
that is what the enforcement order stays in place. The stop work portion of the enforcement order is lifted conditionally on the things we just discussed.
The building inspector can make his inspections.
We will send him an
We
email.
didn't hear that question.
What about inspection?
He asked if the building inspector can make his inspections, and the answer would be yes.
I still think you need something in addition to instead of pulling it completely off, and it be for units that are only under.
Well, should the conditions not be met, we can reinstate it. So, and they know that, and they know that we will.
I'm just concerned, and as everyone hears, and I'll just speak it out, is that you've got 66 units in that complex. And what happens if you allow them to finish selling all of them, they all get in, the work's not completed, and then they're ready to turn this association over to the owners, and those things aren't done? Just putting it out there.
Yeah,
'cause that could happen.
that's,
So is there a compromise in there that we could say that the final move-in building inspection is not completed? I understand that the.
hold on 1 second. What do you have,
Just
Alex?
to address Linda White, her concerns, we have 6 units under agreement, which are scheduled for closings between now and November 1 of '23.
What do you have between now and September?
Oh, there they are.
And these are, how many, are these the remaining units?
These
to
are
be
the
sold?
units that are under
To be
agreement.
sold?
Yes.
How many left under agreement and not under agreement that haven't been sold, approximately?
Well, there's 4 or 5
Yeah.
listed on the Realty.com.
There are 7 on the website right now.
Brian, how many
Yeah.
you got?
7.
Yeah, it's probably seven or 8.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
People
So
are doing
6
their
of
homework.
the 6 of the 8, let's say, are under agreement.
No.
No, additional.
No. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
Additional.
6 under agreement is like 7 or 8 more that still are.
Okay.
And what about the ones that are not finished? They're not up for sale yet, or are they?
Oh, yeah, their stick is
Yeah, all
showing
of them,
those
yeah.
anytime you possibly can.
With regards to the enforcement order and to address her concern, which I can understand the frustration.
Absolutely.
For the public's benefit, you guys already know this, but I'm going to remind you anyway. If you do the lifting the stop work order and allow them to continue, if at any time this thing goes south in between the meetings, You obviously have the ability to reinstate anything, make it stronger, do anything in between meetings on an emergency basis for the commission to ratify at a subsequent meeting. So it's not like we walk out of here and they just gave up all their power. They can come back at any time and say, yeah, no, we don't like the way this is going. Bang, everything's done again. So
Correct.
And there's so little time between the meetings. It's not like they're going to sell like 30 units all of a sudden in 2 days. So, yeah, I'm over exaggerating that, but I'm just the point I'm making here is that it's not like this is a closed-ended process. You guys have a lot of authority here under the Wetland Protection Act to, pull the reins at any time you feel there's something that's appropriate to do. Pardon the coffee, I've been up all night. So.
Yeah.
Could you just clarify again how many units are still for sale or part of this contract? I don't think that was.
So I've just been handed a list of 6 units that are under contract, and Brian estimates there are 7 or 8 additional units that are not sold or under contract.
So are there additional units that haven't been completed yet? Or is
Correct.
it-
Yep. There's 7 or 8 additional besides these 6.
And then, of course, the commission always has a certificate of compliance leverage.
Okay.
Correct.
So these have been completed or no?
In the process.
They're in the process.
In the
Right,
process,
so
okay.
I do know that part of at least some of these are waiting for their final inspection from the building inspector.
But it's over 50% have been sold or occupied at this point?
You have to talk to Brian on that
On
figure. I
what,
don't.
the whole project?
Yes, so.
Oh, yeah.
Over 50%.
Oh, yeah. Like I said, we got about 15 left and then 66 in the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I watch Waddles, not sales.
Yeah.
So.
Any input? AJ?
I'm good.
I
Yeah,
guess.
but Walter's threatening me, so no.
None of that. None of that.
Do I have to intervene down this end?
Yeah, right.
Break it up.
If the HOA, when would that take effect? I thought it was after so many percentage were sold or occupied. No?
I don't want
I don't.
to be.
The project has to
The
be
whole
100%.
project has to be finished.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
What do you finished mean? Does it finished mean sold and closed or finished?
I think it means sold and closed.
That's what I think it means too.
I think it means
I
that
think
too.
that's what
Okay.
Linda's concern
Okay.
is.
Not 100% on that, but
Oh.
90% on that.
You-
But I
that
think
is-
it has to be 100% sold out.
I'm sorry, we
But
I'm not 100% sure of that.
Right, but not necessarily fully landscaped and all of that. I mean, is that part of finishing each unit?
Oh, that would be done by
COC
then.
presented in
Okay.
comments? Would a COC present
Excuse me,
in
we can't
comments?
hear anything.
He's asking me a question. I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Would a
it.
certificate of compliance being issued be part of that condition as far as?
No, I don't think that would hold up the transfer of control to the homeowners association.
So the question was, would the developer need to get a certificate of compliance for the project before the project was considered complete? And Mr. Para
Well-
believes that,
Okay, no, I don't believe the certificate of compliance under the documents, the condominium documents, is a precursor to transferring control from the developer to the homeowners association.
Okay, just wanted to.
Normally,
Sure.
yeah.
yep,
Okay. That
Doesn't
doesn't-
that mean that you should make sure that they have a certificate of compliance when it gets close to the end?
you can't really do a close to compliance certificate.
But I mean, that close to where they're selling the last unit, can't you say you don't have a certificate of compliance? We're gonna hold off on this last 2 units or?
They have to have both, don't they? You'd have to have both. You can sell the last unit, but you still need certificate of compliance to release. So either way, they sell all the units, they still need compliance.
Right, but I'm
certificate
talking
to
about the
release it.
certificate of compliance in the chain of events, not
Right.
as
Right, it's
leverage
one
to
or the other,
say,
it's the
well,
same.
we're not gonna give you this until you give us this.
Yeah.
That's not how that process works.
No.
Right, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Right.
that's the way the law was written.
Yeah.
You know what Wetland Protection Act is.
Right.
You and I don't qualify.
Okay, so the motion that I have would like some, the motion that I've made is a conditional lifting of the stop work order. Even though I actually can't make that motion. Does somebody want to make the motion?
I would like to make a motion that we approve removing the conditional stop order on
under conditions
under
of
the conditions. I'm sorry.
what I said earlier.
Yes. Yeah, what you said earlier.
Right. And what I said earlier, just so we're clear, is that we will get Mr. Grenier's report, and if you hold on after we close this part, we'll take the vote to decide on the next meeting. We would like Mr. Grenier's report to us at least a week prior to our next meeting, so that Pat has some time to review it, so that we have time to review it, and we would like his presence, if possible, at the next meeting. And
Continued stabilization.
thank you. And that they continue to make progress on the stabilization. Holly has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? All right, we will inform the building inspector of the events. And if you hold on a second, we'll have a date for you for the next meeting. So, our next regular meeting is the first week of September. I will be in Denver. We can either do September 13th or the week after that, which would be the 20th.
Carolyn, I'm not available on the 13th. Just so
Okay.
you know.
Okay, that matters. So September 20th.
Yeah.
Yeah, February, yes.
Right, that would be the third Wednesday, right?
That would be the third, so we would just cancel the first regular scheduled
We
meeting
just
of
bounce back
September.
in.
Yep.
If we did 13/20, would that be a double? You know what I mean?
If we did both meetings?
Yeah.
And had them come to the 20th, because Pat can't come to the 13th.
No, that's what I'm saying. So we might as well just do 20 and keep
Correct.
the schedule.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the
I
only
agree.
thing is, you don't think that so much will back up that.
We could have an emergency meeting too if we need to.
We could have an
Oh.
emergency meeting if we
Thank
had
you.
to. Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I'll come down from Maine and.
Okay. And really, there's only one other thing outstanding that I'm aware of after tonight, hopefully.
Okay.
So, make a motion.
So moved.
To cancel the
Oh.
first meeting of September.
I would like to make a motion to cancel the first meeting of September.
Second.
All those in favor?
Right.
Aye. September
Aye.
20th.
Okay, I've got it
So,
marked.
okay. So, we would need John's report by the 13th.
And that meeting starts at 7.
That meeting starts at 7.
Okay.
Yeah. How long have you been on this commission?
You said 7.
I did. You asked me what time.
But your one is for 7:15, right?
Yes. Yes. They'll be here at 7:15.
I did promise Ken Bigelow. That's
Oh.
15. Because I missed them.
Right. Yeah. So not 7:15. You're going to be the second.
Probably 7:30.
They're 7:30, but not
Wayne-
you.
Wayne likes to talk.
Yeah, right?
Oh.
Can we split the difference and make it 7:22?
Right? Well, let's say 7:30, but our 7:15 may need a little 5 or 10 extra minutes. But All right.
Understood. Thank you.
7:30, September 20th. All of you have a lovely Labor Day weekend.
I'll probably be here on the 13th for that septic system too.
Okay. Oh, no,
meeting
on the
the
20th.
I mean, 20th, rather.
And Louise, do you have the Tohoto update?
Okay, I can give you, okay, so we met with the superintendent, the principal of Tohoto, the assistant principal of Tohoto, the assistant principal of the middle school, the curriculum director, and some other 2 members from LINC, which is the PTO for Berlin Memorial. And we talked about starting a community service apprenticeship, internship program. So it was decided that they are going to have an online sign-up for the students at Tohoto, expressing what kind of interest they would have in doing community service in Berlin. And on September 7th, they're going to do that. Then September 21st, there's going to be a volunteer fair at 19 Carter Street for people to, they're going to try to match them up with people from Berlin that are interested in having interns. And so far,
So we need a representative at
right.
that.
Yeah, we said we wanted a representative and somebody to help with IT, and stuff.
Right, but so one of the commissioners needs to be at that
I will
volunteer
be there.
thing. You will
Yeah,
be there?
I will
Okay.
be there.
I have it on my calendar as well,
Okay.
because Louise.
Okay, so, the highway department has said they would love to monitor somebody. Eloise said she'd love to have somebody help with the elections. Assessor said, oh yeah, they would, they'd be interested in having somebody.
Great.
So there's a lot of interest.
Trails department would like an intern.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah.
mentioned trails, I mentioned trails.
The
That would be
chainsaw
nice.
gets heavy
Yeah.
after a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so the superintendent and the principal and the assistant principals are all very gung-ho for this. And actually, one of the assistant principals says she will work on Earth Day and get some of the high school kids to
Oh,
take part.
fabulous.
And Link also said that they would get involved. So I think it's going to be really great. There's a lot of enthusiasm. And I
Awesome.
have to say that, sitting there meeting with people from Tohoto, that our school system is in good hands. There's
That's
a lot
wonderful.
of enthusiasm, camaraderie between them.
Awesome.
Right.
Good. Excellent. Well,
Yeah.
and thank you for keeping up with,
Mm-hmm.
and this has been a multi-meeting process, I know, so
Yeah, right.
thank you, and
It's a
AJ
community-
also, but mostly
Community
you.
service program.
I missed that bit.
Tohoto, with the students at Tohoto. Yeah.
Yep. All right, awesome.
Cool.
Come on up.
Maybe next year I'll have time for that.
Okay.
This
Have a
is
seat.
what you need?
Have a seat. This is what we need.
Just one?
Well, you can sit here
Well, I'm
if you'd
sorry,
like.
that's the only thing I have in my house.
That's all right. This is what we need. All right. Do you want to talk a little bit about this?
I understand there's a concern about that driveway that comes in off of Sawyer Hill Road, but that's only temporary.
Okay.
Understand, I have to have my horses go to the pastures that are down the hill, okay? They can't be going over a driveway. However, you can't have cement trucks going over dirt because they'll sink in, especially with all the rain we've had. So they've had to bring in a lot of rocks to make a driveway.
Right.
For the
So we're
trucks.
not really concerned about the driveway.
Okay.
That might be the highway department, that might be the select board.
Okay.
We're less
Okay.
concerned about the driveway, even though it is on the conservation restriction.
Yeah, but it's not going to be there. I promise you,
Right.
in the end, I don't
Right.
want it there.
So let's talk about the difference in the size of the barn. When you first came in, you
It's going to
asked,
be a 140.
you asked for 20 feet over the line. This is what you're proposing and what you've already started digging, which I don't appreciate. I just want you to know.
Well,
This is significantly larger. It's probably 4 times larger than what you originally were asking about.
it was 140 and now it's 200. It was 144.
So
to be
that's
exact.
60 feet.
60 feet.
And now it's what?
It's almost.
It's
200.
200.
It's exactly 200 because I was led to understand.
Why didn't you come back to us and wait and talk to us a little bit?
I didn't know when you were having a meeting.
Doesn't matter. You wait till we do have a meeting. You have to come before us before you mess around on our land.
Did the building department approve the
It's
addition
mine.
without conservation approval onto the land?
A building permit hasn't been applied for yet for
No.
this. Correct.
So we're just doing everything backwards.
Right.
There's also the importation matter
There's
as
also
well.
the
I'm not
importation.
gonna be importing.
So it's not just dirt. It's
Oh, you
the
mean the
rocks,
stones?
the stones, and anything
Grading.
over 100 yards.
There's not gonna be over 100 yards, that's a lot of yards.
I believe the building inspector estimates that 80 has already been imported.
Yeah, he said 80 yards of stone have come in, he believes, and then the graded base is about 36 yards, and there needs to be a top layer that he estimates to be about 500 yards. So
The
anything,
top layer, I don't know.
anything over 500. So, but you're coming back to the select board on the 28th of
Yeah,
August, so we can talk about that there.
Right.
So what is the condition of this site now, at this time?
Have you seen it?
No.
It's a mess.
We started,
take a look at
we
it.
started digging it up.
Who's we?
And well,
Who's the contractor? Or is there a licensed contractor doing this, or are you doing this as a farm?
I'm doing it as a farm.
Yourself, so you're a homeowner doing the work yourself?
Yes.
With no outside subcontractors?
Well,
Okay.
the man that works for me is a building supervisor.
Licensed
construction
with the
super-
state, as a
Licensed
CSL?
with the state, yes.
Okay. So I would like his license number.
Okay. Well, it'll be on the
The
building permit.
real question is why. So, just for
But
a little
the-
bit of
the-
history, just for a little bit of
The building
history.
inspector had told me that I could clear the land.
I
Do you have that in writing?
No.
Okay.
I don't know that I
What do
agree
you mean
with that.
clear it? There were no trees there.
No, I know, but we have to remove the topsoil no matter what.
You
I don't think
cannot
the
do
building-
work on the conservation restriction side, especially under just the building permit, the building inspector saying that
Okay.
work can be done.
Sorry, I didn't know that.
Well, the
You
first
had to come in
meeting,
for a hearing.
right,
You knew enough to come in.
well, yeah, right, and
Then
you've
after
already
you
been
left,
in.
You went and violated it.
Right. You've already been in, and we've already.
Well, when you were out there, I thought it was all set, and she did too. We both thought it was all set. We really did. When
I
the two of
really
you- when the
swear
three of you-
we talked about the fact that in the field, we cannot make a decision. We have to make a decision at open meeting. We
Okay.
discussed this.
I'm sorry.
Right. So tonight, the decision may be that you have to put all this back. And you have to be willing to understand that because you did not get permission to do this. Now, originally, because the conservation restriction was written 40 years ago or 38 years ago, and the lines for the restriction are just drawn on a map with no dimensions. So when you came in and asked for 20 feet over what your engineer approximates the line to be, we were open to that because it's 20 feet. It helps you keep the farm going, which is the spirit of the conservation restriction. We were comfortable with giving you 20 feet. 60 feet in a major intrusion and going ahead with the work without us kind of changes a lot of things.
So that means I can't get it to the 200 feet.
I'm still comfortable with the 20 feet. I would still be, personally, there are 6 other opinions here.
It's just that I'm not a horse person.
I understand,
I don't
Michelle,
know.
we've gone through this several times.
Okay. After speaking with other horse people, they indicated to me that it doesn't make sense to make an indoor arena that's that small. They indicated to me that you really need it to be the same as like hill, whatever the hill is up there.
Sawyer Hill?
Highland Hill.
Maplewood?
No.
Highland Hill.
Highland Hill.
Okay.
So anyway, that's why I enlarged it. Okay, I enlarged it on the advice of horse people, not because out of the clear blue sky I picked the number.
Believe me, she doesn't want to.
But
When it comes
here's
to what it
right.
costs to build it.
But here's the thing. Highland Hill doesn't have the same restrictions that you do. So if you want a bigger indoor ring, you might need to locate it somewhere else. You might need to make different decisions because I, again, for me personally, will not approve this. If you want to make it smaller, I'm comfortable with that.
Can I ask a question? Because I
Yeah.
have to answer to all of the clients at the farm.
Sure.
They're gonna wanna know, and I need to understand what the difference is between the 20 feet or 60 feet, and why you would say no.
I can nail that one for
Yeah,
you.
I know nothing about it,
All right.
so.
So this line here, as we stated, did not have exact GPS coordinates back in the day.
Okay.
Right? So we're giving you the benefit of doubt that this line could be off by 20 feet.
Okay.
We'll say. So we're gonna let you have 20 feet. I don't think that line's off by 80 feet.
Right. Okay.
I think that's ridiculous.
So just because, like I was asking you what you guys do,
Yep.
and I don't understand.
Is it that you don't understand the conservation restriction?
Yeah,
You
like
know
I
what
don't
that is?
understand
Right.
the difference between like
All right, the
regular land and conservation
All right, you have a
land.
land and there's a lot that goes with it, rights to build and all this other stuff. But then, so Mr. Cotting in his will gave all the rights to develop to the town. We own those rights to develop on that land, not anybody else. And that's what a conservation restriction is. The
Okay.
owner, you can own the land, graze horses on it, do that kind of stuff,
Right.
agriculture
Well, you
related,
can
but
do
cannot.
what's laid out in the document.
Okay.
And you can have this copy if you want.
Okay.
It says the intent of the document. It says what is allowed and what isn't allowed. And those are the parameters. Mr. Cotting chose those parameters. Your husband bought the property knowing that these parameters were in place. I feel for you being in this position that you're in, that you don't really want this property, but I cannot let that be how we make our decision.
How does it hurt anything?
Because everybody else, if we make an exception for you, everybody else who trusts us
That's
to
right.
put a conservation restriction on their property and for us to carry it out will say, how do we know you're not going to violate this for somebody who asked you to?
And we've already lost, if somebody was considering putting a conservation restriction on his property, and because a decision was made a certain way, they said, no way do I trust you to.
Yeah.
Madam Chair.
So,
Yes.
you know,
Why don't we,
we have to
they've
draw
got to
the
come in
line
for another
somewhere.
hearing and before we can grant them some more, so what? Are we gonna
Well,
make a
we would-
decision tonight just to stop, cease and desist or what?
They have to have a
Let's
cease and
move
desist
right.
from the
with it.
building department already if they don't have a building permit. You can't excavate without a building permit. So we're already in
The-
two different zones of.
Right, so the building inspector has gone up and looked, and what he saw at the time anyway,
Mhm.
he believed that there was nothing for him to issue a cease and desist on.
Yeah.
But that
Because of the land district. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to give this to you.
Thank you.
So that you know
I didn't
what the
realize this was
parameters are.
going
I
on
have
at
already
that
emailed that to you, Michelle. And I'm really sorry, but if you want the 20 feet, we can talk. If you want more than that, then you're going to have to try to do something different.
So, over the 20 feet, what's the length of beginning to the 20? Would that be like 140?
From here?
Yeah.
The
So
original construction is 144.
So 144 is still not that bad for an indoor, because you have the width now is 70 feet.
It's always been 70.
Okay.
Well, wait
so
a minute. This says proposed riding
Is the gray box. Yeah.
is this the original box?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
And what are the blue lines? Where's the scale? The blue lines.
The
is
blue
a
lines
wall?
are,
Slope or what?
yeah, topography.
Okay. So we're altering the land topography and,
Correct.
yeah, so it's a.
Correct.
So do we
So-
make a motion or what do we do?
Well, they would have to do that even if they kept, if they didn't go past the 20 feet that we already said, they would still have to do a little bit of work to, in here.
In here, and that, but
Would we-
it's this line that
Right.
way, that's the problem.
Right,
Yeah.
right, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I get that. I'm just saying if we say, well,
The only reason why they got the
little
20
bit.
feet is because we can't GPS.
yeah,
this.
understand.
Right,
So if this was a GPS coordinate, they would have never got the 20.
right.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
20 was out of the kindness of the commission to make it work.
Right.
And not drag out legal.
But I think as far as making it not as long isn't as bad as long as you have the width. If that's something, if they wanted to pursue, if we can entertain letting them just go over that
I'd let them
initial
keep
20.
the 20-foot overage, yeah, but.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not
she
getting-
needs to make her
Oh, yeah, yeah,
decision,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
Of
kind
course.
if you decide to go with the 20 feet, we need a
Okay.
plan that shows
Right.
Well,
that
it's
work. Well, this, we can't approve this plan, because this plan shows it bigger.
Yeah.
So we need a plan that would be accurate.
So does that have to wait till that September 20th meeting?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carolyn, can I clarify something too on how that
Absolutely.
impacts our side? So also, for importing anything, that can't happen until conservation approves the plan. So anything over 100 yards that you're bringing in, you can bring in up to 100 yards, but anything after that, the stone, the gravel, everything like that, you have to stop until you have the approval from the conservation and then the select board. So since you won't be meeting with conservation till the 20th, we would have to continue the hearing from August 28th until the next select board meeting that's after conservation meets.
Right.
We would also seek a cease and desist of any further excavation or anything on that site until approval.
Well,
Without being
certainly
sued.
over the line. She
Well,
can do
so
whatever
that's
she
it.
wants on this side.
Well, nothing's
but-
approved by the building department either, so there's nothing to be done.
Wow.
No excavation, nothing.
We could easily apply for the building permit.
You can apply for a
Start
building
work
permit,
on
right.
this part here without affecting this part here.
Correct. Yep.
So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 20 feet, so 40 feet, so, sorry, grabby.
So we could go
This
out
line we don't know,
120
right? So
feet.
this is 144, minus 20 is 120, so we'll say another 20.
124 we could
So
go
you
up
can
to.
build the first 100 feet of it, but because this.
124 feet.
No, that's not what I'm saying to you. It's a 120-foot line, works both ways. So now you've gone and done this, so 20 foot back from the imaginary line, because we don't know
Wow.
where that line is. And if and when you do get a building permit, it still needs to go to conservation for approval because of the land rights. So you're not gonna get a building permit to build without our stamp or vote on it,
Well, it has to.
because
be-
it goes hand in
It's gonna
hand.
have to be surveyed. This is gonna require a survey of the thing. We can't vote on this unless the line
Well, we can
survey.
require a
Well, she
survey.
has an engineer. The engineer who drew this plan and the last one
Yeah.
also surveyed the property.
Yes.
Oh.
And there were stakes in the
Yeah,
ground
yeah.
when we went and did the
Yeah,
site walk.
yeah.
So it's a
Yes.
pretty accurate line.
It's an-
Correct.
But it's not a GPS line, so we gave them the 20-foot buffer.
Correct.
So we can ask for the 20-foot buffer on this side too. I don't, in my opinion, the idea of getting a building permit without our approval is not happening.
Well, right,
But
it
it's
won't.
not
You
my
can apply
department
for
to
it,
say.
but
Correct.
we sign off on projects that, the building permit doesn't get issued without conservation approval. And since we don't have an approved plan, all right? I'm really sorry that this is working out this way for you.
Can I ask you one more question?
You may.
Kind of unrelated to the building aspect. So
Yep.
you're talking, if you guys are saying like, no way, we're not gonna give you more than 20, absolutely not.
Mhm.
We know that that needs to be leveled back out in order for all my horses to go back out there.
But we can't.
But you
because
can't, it doesn't matter, nothing can
We need
happen
the
till.
road in there no matter what to get the.
Yeah, the road's a heavy zone.
We
Yeah.
need to have the road in no matter what to get the cement trucks in.
I was just
And your
thinking.
horses can't cross
No, no, no,
that
I was
road.
just thinking in terms of like knowing that's gonna have to be
So
fixed.
you're saying that in order to level that out,
Like, that's gonna have to happen, can that?
That it would be wider than the 20 feet. Is that what you're saying?
My understanding is that if it's presumed that digging has happened beyond the 20 feet into the conservation land.
Oh, certainly, it's not even presumed,
Okay,
but
so
okay.
my question to that is, that's area where eventually our horses go back out.
Absolutely, that has to be restored.
Do we have to wait to restore that?
Yeah,
Or
till
is
we
that
get-
something
Let's
that can be?
let's get a hard line.
Okay.
Let's get a line.
So nothing can happen until September 20th?
You can ride horses.
Right.
Well, right.
Can't ride horses there.
Half of them are gonna leave, so.
That's unfortunate, yeah.
And
I feel bad, but-
again, I'm we're trying to do what we feel is reasonable to help you keep the horse business, but at the same time, we've been entrusted to uphold that document, and we will do that.
We have a number of CRs throughout the town. We never had any problem.
Right.
All the owners work cooperatively, and the initial agreement, everybody's happy, and nobody has ever gone and
done that.
Violated that restriction without the courtesy of coming to us anyway. So we can't let it happen.
Linda, did you want to say?
Oh, no, sorry, Lindsay,
Lindsay, sorry.
New executive director of Sudbury Valley Trustees, and I've been running land trusts in 5 states as serving as an executive director, and we've actually found the second and third generation owners, you do run into conflicts, and that's why it's so important that we educate and empower and inform them. But yes, these are legal documents. This is nothing to
Drawing up
mush around
the
with.
initial document is
Yeah.
key, but I mean, when it's just a flagrant violation of that initial document, there's no excuse.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. Do we have anything else on our agenda to discuss?
Well, I'm sorry we had that going on in front of us.
I know. Yep.
Oh,
Scared to talk to you all.
I know.
Or they're proud of us.
That's
right.
That was the first time that happened.
Gotta protect the land.
Yep.
off the table?
Okay, so are we done with our agenda?
I don't see it any place, I don't know.
Oh, Ann Wheeler didn't come. So,
But that's the one down.
that's
driving
South
range.
Street.
The
Yeah.
driving range.
See you next time.
Yep, so
So
maybe
we'll
she's.
skip right along.
Yep, all right, and, we're gonna table any discussion of the stormwater management bylaw for this evening. So I think we're done. So I would like.
Out back, ma'am.
Oh.
Ma'am, out back.
Ms. Peg.
Maplewood's on your agenda?
It's always on there. It's really just to remind, so that
One on
if
the agenda.
anything comes up, we have the opportunity to discuss it.
Yeah, did you see the most recent email?
There was an email today. Paul McManus had sent some documents to Judy Schmidt, and there were some missing that she asked him for, and so I'm assuming he will get them to her tomorrow or whatever. In good time, in a timely fashion, I should say.
Can I make you aware of something with regard to Maplewood, since it
Absolutely.
is an item on the agenda? And
Absolutely.
I'm not violating the
Absolutely.
agenda? So there's been a couple of soil packages that have come through for review in the past couple of weeks.
Mhm.
So what happened, and I understand that can be a bit of a process, right? Because they come to us, then they get reviewed by the town's LSP, and then if they get the soil, which they don't always do, then the delivery comes after that. However, since I've seen 3 come through, and 2 of them, I believe, have been approved by our LSP, Weston and Sampson. So I reached out to DEP, to Mary Jude Pigsley over at DEP, who I know from a past life. And I said, my understanding is that there's an enforcement order. And I said, so that means they can't be bringing in any more soil while this is going on, correct? And she said, that is correct. So my only concern is, being relatively new to this, I don't know what the timing is between when a soil package gets approved and when they deliver it. But, so I think we need to maybe close that loop, because I'm not sure what's going on there. And if they're anticipating being
Well,
done
the fact,
soon.
right, the fact that they're still trying to buy soil
Yeah.
and going through the process of having it tested for approval makes me feel like there's maybe a communication gap there.
Well, that, and Mary Jude was, it's summer, people were on vacation, so
Yep.
I just actually heard back from her yesterday, and I said, I'm just trying to clarify that there is no soil that is to be imported right now. Is that correct? And she said, that is correct. So that's why I knew I was meeting with you all
Okay.
tonight, and I
Yep.
wanted to put that on your radar. Because there's not a whole lot I can do from my end, but I think you all have a fair amount of authority with regard to DEP. So if I can be helpful,
Well,
though-
DEP has the superseding order of conditions, but we certainly have their ear after the last year,
Right.
year and a half.
Okay.
Or is it 2 years now?
And I
so
didn't respond to
we'll
that email
definitely
'cause I
get
want
in
to
touch
talk
with
to
them. Do you want me to, or do you want to?
And I didn't know
will.
if you had a more, I didn't know if you had a more specific person to contact.
Yeah.
Because Mary Jude
Yeah.
is the I think she's the district
Yeah,
director.
Judy
She's-
Schmidt is
Okay.
The head of Central Mass and was originally assigned to this project anyway. So
Okay. Okay, got it.
So I will.
Yeah, we were
send
speaking
her-
on another matter, and then this came up, and then the email went, and it took a week, and so then I went.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So I will
Because
send
I
her
just
an
don't,
email.
like I said, don't know what that timing is like from when they get approved to when they actually get and import the soil. So-
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
'Cause
I
they don't
know.
always get
I
them
know.
either.
Right. Well, because sometimes it takes too long.
That's what they said, but we fixed that problem.
Right.
So,
That's
so we say, so they say, so I think we're all set on that. That we turn them around now within about 48 hours. We have 4 business days, but we've tried to do a quicker turnaround.
Right. No soil. All right. I will do that tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you for.
Yeah, and if you need
Yeah.
anything from me, let me know. I can afford
You
those
know I
packages.
always do.
I'm Absolutely, that's what I'm here for.
Okay. Anything else for our regular meeting? All right. So we have to make a motion. I can never remember the order. We make a motion to go into executive session,
Correct.
and then we have to close our meeting.
You have to make a motion to go into executive session. You have your executive session. Then you make a motion to come out of executive session. You open the door back up because then it's a public meeting
Oh,
again, and then you adjourn.
Oh, don't we? I think we usually say make a motion to go into executive session and that we won't be coming back.
Right, but technically you do have to adjourn always in open session. So you can say that so people will leave, and then all you're going to do is literally say a motion to adjourn when you're done with exec. Because executive
Okay.
is always part of the regular meeting.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
It's
So
a
we're
technicality. It's one of those annoying rules.
It's not recorded.
We voted
It's
to
not
go into
recorded,
executive
absolutely not.
session without returning to the regular meeting,
Right.
and then we close the regular meeting.
After
Right.
you're done
We
exec.
adjourn, right.
Yep. But you say you're not returning to the regular meeting, meaning that there's no business that's going to be conducted so that everybody leaves.
Right. Okay. I would accept a motion to go into executive session.
So move.
I second it.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask you to vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And just for clarification, you should
Oh.
list the exemption that you're going in.
Oh, and the exemption is number 6.
Purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real
Yeah.
property.
Yes.
Yes.
To
Sorry.
consider.
See,
No,
this is what
right.
happens when you invite me to your meetings.
I
and
know.
I'm the
That's
pain
a,
in the
no,
butt.
no, no, that's all right.
Apologize.
Number 6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property.
That covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Sorry to be picky.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
So you're now in executive session? so
We
you
are
know
now
what to
in executive session.